Adding blind spot mirrors to your car's blind spot monitoring system definitely does keep the installation looking more clean, as they give your car that factory fitted look. And the blind spot mirror lamps definitely work equally as well as the external notification lamps that you can mount in the A-pillars of your car. But is the extra hard work and cost of having blind spot mirrors over the external notification lamps really worth it? Well, that's a good question, so let's find out. Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. If you're new here, hello and welcome to the channel, and I hope you like today's video. If you like smart home and automotive technology content, then hit that subscribe button, because that's what you're going to see on this channel. In today's video, I'm going to be installing and reviewing another blind spot monitoring system. And so again, this video is going to be longer than usual, mostly due to the complexity of the installation. Okay, so this is the third blind spot monitoring system installation video I have done on this channel now. However, if you're a subscriber of this channel and you're sitting there watching this and thinking, oh no, not another blind spot monitoring system video, don't worry, because this one is going to be quite a bit different than what I've done before. And that is because this time I'm also going to be installing blind spot mirror lenses as well. This blind spot monitoring system I'm going to be installing in today's video is also a slightly different system than what I have installed before. It's just the same brand as last time, and it's a brand that I do like. My first blind spot monitoring system installation video, which is this one right here playing in the background, was for a 24 GHz system. My second blind spot monitoring system installation video, which was this one right here, was for a single sensor 79 GHz system. But today I'm going to be installing this blind spot monitoring system, which is a 77 GHz dual sensor system with mirror lenses as well, of course. Now, because I'm going to be installing mirror lenses as well this time, please do be advised that if you're thinking about installing a system like this yourself, this installation is by far not for the amateur at all. It is very complex and time consuming, and it's also risky as well, because mirrors are made from glass, and it does not matter how careful, good or experienced you are, they can break, and for a lot of people they do. But hopefully for me they won't. My fingers are crossed. It's also one of the most expensive blind spot monitoring systems that you can buy as well. That being mainly due to the cost of the mirror lenses themselves, but also because it is one of the top models currently available. This particular system is called the D6, and it also supports the bi-coloured notification lamps, as you will see later on when I demonstrate it working for you. Now, because I'm trying to make this video educational for you as well, I'll start off by answering the most common question, which is, what system should I buy for my car? If you're on a budget, and you want the cheapest BSM system, then I would recommend you buy the 24 GHz system. If the cost is not important to you, then I would recommend the 77 GHz system. It doesn't have to be this exact system though, of course. And in regards to the easiest system to install, the 79 GHz system wins hands down, due to its single radar sensor design, which can also be mounted externally. As for the best performance, you'll be happy with them all, because they all perform well. But the 77 and 79 GHz systems are slightly more powerful and precise, so if your budget allows it, I would recommend to go bigger if you can. If you have never installed a blind spot monitoring system before, and know nothing about them at all, then I would highly recommend you watch my 79 GHz blind spot monitoring video first, which I'll leave a link to at the end of the video and in the description box below. In my personal opinion, that's the perfect BSM system for beginners. And that video also goes more into depth of the differences between the BSM systems and how it works. Now, if you are experienced and you have absolutely no fear installing a blind spot monitoring system to your car at all, and you really want to have blind spot mirror lenses instead of notification lamps, then I guess we have something in common. But I hope you're feeling brave, because you will need to be for an installation like this. Now, this is actually not the first 77 GHz blind spot monitoring system I've installed before. With my last installation, I was on a short time schedule for that job, so I could not make a video for it. But this time, I'm installing this one to my own car, so there's no pressure or stress at all. Well, apart from the mirrors breaking on me, that part is always a little stressful. Now, the main reason I have chosen to install this particular system this time is because of all the questions you guys have asked me, especially in regards to the mirrors themselves. I personally did not want to spend this much on a BSM system. So thanks guys, because of you I'm basically now broke. Anyway, let's start by talking about these mirror lenses. If you've been looking at installing a blind spot monitoring system before that you could use with your car's existing mirrors, then you'll most likely have come across something online like this, which is the same thing as this. And these are blind spot monitoring mirror lights. So it looks like you can just buy these mirror lights and fit them to your car's existing mirrors, and it's as easy as that, right? Unfortunately, it's not that easy, and for some, it's quite possibly very confusing, which is perfectly understandable. The way these blind spot mirror lights work is, with some car manufacturers, but from my experience a small minority of them, they actually make their mirror lenses with the provision for these mirror lights to be installed. So yes, if your car mirrors are designed with the provision, like these ones are, then it's made your job really easy. Now, how many of you have car mirrors designed with this provision? That's what I thought. None of you do. Which makes buying these lights for your mirrors not a great idea, because they're not going to work. Now, just in case it doesn't show up that clearly on camera, when I say designed with the provision, what I mean is, do your mirrors have some type of shape or icon etched through them to allow the light to shine through it? Obviously, when installing the light onto the mirror, the light will need to shine through the glass as well. Now, if your existing car mirror lenses are anything like mine, as you can see, these are not designed for blind spot mirror lights to be installed into them, as there is nowhere for the lights to shine through, unlike these ones. Now, I suppose if you were extremely clever, and your mirrors had enough room to have the lights mounted behind them, then it's possible you could very carefully etch the back of the mirror and make a little tiny area for the light to shine through, for the LED lamps. But is it really worth the effort and risk of trying that? In my opinion, and from a cost-effective point of view, no, it's definitely not. So the only other option is to do it this way and buy new replacement mirror lenses that have already been designed for this job. And so that's exactly what I have done. Now, all depending on the car you have, this is probably going to cost you about another 50 to 100 US dollars. My mirror lenses at the time of this review cost me 45 US dollars. So yes, the BSM is actually bought separately from the mirror lenses themselves, but everything is still from the same supplier. You would just need to ask the supplier for mirror lenses to suit your particular vehicle. They do have a large selection of blind spot mirror lenses to choose from, so the chances they have some to suit your car as well is high. Okay, so now that I've explained all of that to you, I'm just going to quickly show you what else is left in the box. And then I need to get stuck into this installation, as there is a lot of work to do, and I mean a lot. So it's just your wiring looms, your mirror lenses, your mirror lens lights. This is the piezo buzzer that you mount inside the car for the audible warning. You've got your control unit over the back there, and next to that you've got your measuring stick, which is what you use to get your radar sensors at the right angle. And in this little bag here, you've got the mounting brackets for the radar sensors. And that's pretty much it. Now, as probably most of you will agree, the worst part of the job is definitely installing the mirror lenses. So naturally, the best place to start would be installing the mirror lenses, so you can get the worst part of the job over with first, right? Well, yes, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to start with removing the rear bumper and installing the radar sensors, which I know for a lot of you is definitely the worst part of the job. I've read and replied to all your comments, so a lot of you seem to get quite nervous and scared when it comes to the mounting angle and alignment of the radar sensors being incorrect. In fact, this alone puts most of you off the idea of even installing a blind spot monitoring system to your car. But if you're feeling really nervous about the radar sensor installation, then I would advise and highly recommend that you watch the 79 GHz blind spot monitoring system video first, and then buy that system, because you are not going to have any radar sensor installation problems when installing that system. It is by far the easiest blind spot monitoring system of them all to install. Now, as for the 24 and 77 GHz systems, you're right. The angle and alignment of the radar sensors is very important. If you get it wrong, the BSM system will perform incorrectly, you can get false alerts and other problems. But it is definitely not something to be scared of or to put you off installing a blind spot monitoring system to your car to start with. Trust me, when installed and set up correctly, this is one of the best decisions you will have made. A blind spot monitoring system is a fantastic device for any car to have, as you will see later on in the video, if you haven't already seen it in one of my previous blind spot monitoring videos. Okay, that's enough talking anyway. It's time for me to remove the rear bumper and install these radar sensors. Okay guys, it's now about 20 minutes later and the rear bumper of the car has been removed. Now, while you would think removing the rear bumper is a major and difficult job to do, on most cars it usually isn't. Now, in regards to the radar sensors, these are actually designed to be mounted to the body of the car itself, not to the bumper at all. So what I'm going to do now is mount one of the sensors, get the angle and everything correct, and then I'll show you how I've done that. Okay guys, and as you can see just here, I've now got the right hand sensor mounted to the car. Now, as far as the height goes, I would recommend between 50 to 70 centimeters from the ground. You can go higher. They say you can go up to about 90 centimeters and as low as 30 centimeters. For me, I think 30 centimeters is too low. These here I've got mounted at 60, and that's the center of the sensors there. Now, as far as the angle adjustment goes, the easiest way is just to use the measuring stick that they supply. Now, the way that works is you put this angled part here on the face of the sensor, like that, and the stick should be facing out straight, like that. So as you can see, that's the perfect angle. If the sensor was mounted out that way, that would be wrong. And if the sensor was mounted back that way, that would also be wrong. So as long as it's facing center like that, you can't go wrong. I get a lot of comments on my blind spot monitoring videos, and one common comment I see a lot is you follow the instructions and you've tried to mount the radar sensors where it says in the instructions, but you can't because on your car there's no room for it to be mounted. And that's basically because your car was not designed for blind spot monitoring. Remember, these are an aftermarket system, so not all cars are designed for them. Now, that doesn't mean you can't install it on your car. It just means you're going to have to get a bit more creative when it comes to finding a location and how you install the radar sensor to the car. But the most important thing is, once it is installed, you do have the angle set up correctly. Okay guys, I've just mounted the left-hand radar sensor to the left-hand side of the car. So now both the radar sensors have been mounted. So now all I need to do is just run these wires back into the boot and then start running the wiring loom for the rest of the system. So I'm going to do that now. Okay, so I've just finished very tidily mounting the cables from both of the radar sensors along the back of the car. And then they just come down here, and then they go in through this big rubber grommet here, which goes into the boot floor. So now both cables from the radar sensors are inside the car, which is what you want. Now, one more thing about the radar sensors, which I should have mentioned before, and I get asked this question a lot. When you're mounting the sensors, do the sensors have to be tilted down towards the floor or up a little bit? And the answer is no. They need to be mounted perfectly vertical. So perfectly straight up and down, just like that. So providing they're mounted straight up and down, and you've got the angle of the sensor as we did before, correct? That's all you need to do. So the rear of the car is now finished. So now I'm going to put the rear bumper back on the car again. Okay, and the rear bumper is back on the car. So now I've got to mount the control interface, the piezo buzzer, and run the wiring loom from the rear to the front of the car. So I'm going to do that now. Okay guys, so I've just finished running the wiring loom from the front of the car to the rear of the car. And now I've got to connect the turn signal lamps and the reversing lamp. Now, it doesn't actually say what the wires are. Well, I mean, it does, but the labels are all in Chinese. So the white wire is right-hand turn signal. The grey wire is backup lamp. And the blue wire, which is down here, is left-hand turn signal. Okay, and the wiring at the rear of the car is now complete. So I've got my right-hand turn signal lamp connected, my left-hand turn signal lamp connected, and in regards to the reversing lamp, it's actually not built into the rear outer lights at all on this car. Like a lot of cars, it's built into the tailgate, those white lamps right there. So that can be a problem for some cars because it means you're going to have to run a wire up through here to get all the way to the lamp. But on this car, it actually just comes through the corrugated boot here, and then it comes down to the back of the car again. So as you probably can't see, but it's just up here. This is where I've got the reversing lamp connected as well. So that worked out well. So now it's off to the front of the car to connect the power and ground wires. Okay, and the wiring at the front of the car is even easier. So I've got the control unit and buzzer mounted up under here, or up behind the dash somewhere. I can't show you that because you can't see it on camera. So it's just the black wire now, which I've got to connect to ground, and the red wire, which needs to be connected to switch 12 volts. Not constant 12 volts, it must be switch 12 volts. It obviously comes with this little fuse built into the end of the wire So you can replace a switched 12-volt fuse inside your fuse box, providing it is the same amperage of course, and just plug it in, and that way you can get switched 12 volts to the wire. I'm not going to do it that way. I'm actually just going to cut it off and wire it up to a plug which I've got up the top ready for it anyway, and then I'm just going to put my own fuse holder onto it. So I'm going to do that now, and then after that everything's finished apart from the mirrors. So that's the next job to do. Okay, so my ignition wire and my ground wire are now connected. I'm not going to put a fuse into it at this stage because the system's not ready to be powered up. So that's pretty much it. The wiring is basically done. What have we got left now? Right, so it's just the mirrors to install, the mirror lamps which have to be installed to the mirrors when I do that, and these two cables here which are just to connect the mirror lamps to the main control unit. So it's time to install the mirrors, and I'm going to start with the left hand side. Okay, so as you can see, the good news is the lens is off and the glass didn't break, and neither did any of the clips on the back, so that's good. Now the best way to get the glass off, in my opinion, is to leverage it vertically, one at the top and one at the bottom. Doing it horizontally like that, the glass is longer, so there's more chance it's going to break because the mirror is not as high as it is long. So let's actually just clip back on there again now. I'll try and take that off again for you right now and film it so you can see how I did it. It is quite tight, by the way, so you will need to get a really good grip on it. So I just put it on like that and then pulled it like that and it came off. It's looser this time than it was the first time. So yeah, the mirror lens on the left hand side of the car is now removed. Okay, now as you can see, the Blindspot mirror lens, this one here, is a little bit different to the original, but it's just how the header element connectors have been located, which is not going to be a problem at all. But of course, there are going to be problems, and one of those is getting the cable through the mirror inside to the car. There may be a way to do this without removing the entire mirror from the car, but there also may not. So I'm going to start by removing the interior door panel and go from there. Okay, the door panel has been removed from the door, and now it's very clear to me that the entire mirror has to be removed from the door as well, which I was expecting, but just kind of being a little bit hopeful that I didn't need to do that, but it's not the case at all. So as I said at the beginning of the video, this is a major job and getting worse the more I get into it. So if you want blind spot mirrors fitted to your car, you're going to need to be pretty desperate. Okay, and the entire mirror has now been removed from the door. That part was actually a lot easier to do than I expected. Actually, that was really easy. It literally took me like a minute and a half. Now, the worst part is that this has all got to be dismantled. Basically, completely dismantle the entire mirror to be able to get the cable to go into the mirror here from the inside of the car through to the glass lens. So I'm not looking forward to this job at all, but it's got to be done. So let's get into it. Okay, and as you can see, the side mirror is now completely dismantled. And yes, you have to go to all that work just to be able to get the cable from the inside of the car to the mirror lens. There is no other way of doing it. It's got to be fully dismantled. Well, at least on this car anyway. Older cars will be easier, but on modern cars, this is like a 2013 Alfa Romeo Giulietta, it's not easy to do at all. And now a bit of a spoiler for an up-and-coming video. It's a little bit away yet, but I'm going to also be installing a 360 degrees camera parking system to this car as well. So the camera needs to be mounted in the mirrors for a system like that, and there is no way I'm pulling this mirror apart again just to do that. So at the same time, I'm going to be mounting this camera in the mirror as well. Right, I have finally managed to get the wires through the mirror housing. As you can see, they're going through here and they're entering the mirror down here. And that was an absolute nightmare of a job. I had to cut out and modify this area of the mirror here to allow for 2 extra cables to go through. And yes, I said 2 because, as I said before, I had to also mount a camera in the mirror as well, which I've done. And that's for my 360 camera parking system, which you will see in a future video eventually. Removing the mirror and dismantling it again for a second time just to install the camera would be a stupid and painful process to go through. So I'm glad I've got the camera mounted this time. And I must say, I'm actually quite happy with the way that's come up. It looks good. The worst part of dismantling this mirror is you have no choice but to release the tension spring here. And it is nothing but a headache of a job. So when you do finally get it released, which that part's actually not that hard, I wish you the best of luck trying to retension it again. It's not a job you want to try, trust me. So now it's time to refit this mirror back to the car and then install the Blindspot mirror lenses and lights. Okay, so I've now fitted the mirror back to the car again, and everything is looking nice and clean and tidy. That was actually the easiest part of this job so far, I think. And the next job should be easy as well, which is fitting the Blindspot lamps to the mirror lenses. The lamps actually just stick onto the mirrors like that, using this adhesive tape. And yes, it is also a transparent adhesive tape, which also allows for the light to shine through it. And for those of you sitting there wondering if the tape has a really good strong stick, that's exactly what I was thinking as well. And yes, it's very, very strong. It's not going to go anywhere, so you don't need to worry about it falling off. Okay, now that the Blindspot lamp has been fitted to the mirror lens, it's now time to install the mirror lens back to the mirror. So I'm going to do that now. And for this part of the job, all we need to do is reconnect the heater element again and just plug in the lamp to the cable coming from the control unit, and then just make sure all the cables are out of the way, and very gently the mirror should just clip back into place. Like that, and it does. That was really easy to do as well. Now we just need to take off this film, and that's it. The mirror is complete. Okay, and now for the next job, and this is where you run into even more problems. So I've got the cables coming from my mirror, from my 360 camera and the Blindspot lamp. So they're coming out of the mirror, down the door, and now I need to get them through the door and into the cabin of the car. And that's not possible to do. And the reason for that is because on most modern cars, the electrics on the door are just now on plugs. Therefore, it's not designed to have wires put through it, unlike the older cars, which are easier as they just use a grommet type of boot system, so you can thread as many wires through the grommet as you want to. I'll just try and get the camera down there closer so you can see what I'm talking about. As you can see, hopefully, that's just a plug with pins in it. There's no hole in the door anymore, so you can't put any wires through the door. It's just all on this plug, and it's so frustrating, but I knew that was going to happen. So how do you get the wires through then? Unfortunately, all you can do is attach them to the outside of the door and then just tie them to the outside of the loom. I can probably get the wires into the rubber boot, which will look a little bit better, but apart from that, there's no other option. So it's not going to look great, to be honest, and I personally hate that look, but there is no other option other than drilling another hole inside the door, which I definitely don't want to do, as it ruins the car. So I'm going to do what I can, and I'll show you the result in a few moments. Okay, and this is the final result. So the wires come out of the mirror, down the door, then this is the ugly part where it has to go around the outside of the door, then it goes under the weather strip, just over the top of the plug there, then I've got it going inside the rubber boot, and then they go through there, and then they come out into the cabin of the car. So I'll try and get the camera in there closer so you can see, and that's how I've done it, and I don't like it at all, especially how it has to go around the outside of the door. So I'm hoping that when the door panel goes back on, it's going to look better than it does now. So I'm going to try that now. Okay, most of the door panel is back on now, and it doesn't look any better, but that's exactly what I expected. So it's just something I'm going to have to live with. So the next job will be to run the wire up and around the windscreen over to the control unit, because this is the wire coming from the mirror lamp. And then it's over to the right hand side of the car, and to start this whole process all over again. Okay guys, I've got the mirror off the right hand door, and again the mirror came off the door without breaking the lens, so that's good. So now I've just got to run the cable through the mirror. I have to modify the bottom of it again like I did on the other side. And then I've got to install the camera, of course, the 360 camera into this mirror as well. The only downside to this one is it's actually got a temperature sensor on the bottom of it, which the other side didn't have. But anyway, I'll find some way around that. And once that's done, it's time to put the mirror back on the car again. Okay, and the right-hand mirror is now back together again. It took me probably about an hour and a half as opposed to about 3 hours for the first one. But after you've done one, it's always easier the second time around. Even though, technically speaking, getting the wires through should have been harder because I've got the temperature sensor to deal with, which I didn't have on the other side. And speaking of temperature sensor, you probably noticed I've had to relocate that back further. It was mounted up here before, which was going to be right in the way of my 360 camera. So, give you a closer look. It's just tucked in behind there. It's a really tight fit. All the wires have gone through and out the bottom. So now it's time to put the mirror back onto the car. Okay, and the right hand door mirror is back on the door again. So everything looks good. Now, all I've got to do is run the wires into the cabin again. I've got them coming down here. And I've just got them sitting there at the moment. Just going to run them through the grommet here, into the cabin, and then just hook everything up at the control unit, and it's ready for testing. Okay guys, it's now 2 weeks later. I ran into problems with the alignment of these mirror lenses, but that's all been sorted out now, and the seller was really good about helping with the problem as well. I do want to make it very clear though that the mirror lenses are of course from China, and just because they may look the same shape as your existing mirrors does not mean the alignment is guaranteed to be 100% correct. And if it isn't, it can cause you headaches. Hence the reason for the 2-week delay on the progression of this video. Apparently some of the cars in China, irrespective of the brand, do have some slight changes in regards to the mirrors. So please be aware of this. I would recommend measuring your existing mirrors first, and just confirming those measurements are the same as the new Blindspot mirror lenses with your supplier. Anyway, with that being said, both my mirror lenses are now fitted and aligned properly. Let's just give you a closer look at this one here. Hopefully you can see this on camera, but the gap is pretty much identical all the way around the entire mirror lens now. So I'm pretty happy with that. I'll just show you the other side as well. And here we are on the left hand side, and the gap all the way around the mirror lens is pretty much close to perfect. Just like the right hand side. You may have noticed before in the video when I put the lens onto the side, the glass was over this way too much. So it needed to come back this way, and that's the problem I have with the alignment, which I needed to get sorted out. So I'm now happy with both mirror lenses. So before my problem with the mirror alignment, the installation was pretty much finished anyway. So as you see, I have now put the door panel back on as well, because I've run the wires from the left hand side of the car to the right hand side, and everything has been connected and is ready for testing. Now, I've demonstrated how these blind spot monitoring systems work before in my previous videos, so I'm not going to discuss all of that again, because I'm trying to keep this video more focused on the installation of the blind spot mirrors instead. However, I am of course still going to give you a good demonstration of the entire system working. So with that being said, it's now time to test out this blind spot monitoring system and see just how much different it is using blind spot mirrors as opposed to the alternative blind spot notification lamps, as seen and used in my other blind spot monitoring videos. Okay guys, and we're now outside. So the way this blind spot monitoring system works is the mirrors have bi-color LEDs in them. So when a car is detected in my blind spot, as you can see a car is coming now, the light will turn orange, like that. If my indicator was on at the same time, the light would turn red and I would get an audible warning from the buzzer that I've got mounted under the dashboard. So as you can see, there's another car approaching now. I'll turn my indicators on, and that light will turn red. Like that. So now I'm just going to go for a drive around the streets, get a whole bunch of video clips, choose the best ones, and throw them in the video. So with that being said, let's go. Okay guys, so as you have seen, everything is working well, as expected, and I have to admit I do quite like these blind spot mirrors. And to be honest, I didn't think I was going to. So after saying that, does this mean I would recommend using blind spot mirrors instead of the external notification lamps? And the answer is no. I mean, yes, sure, it keeps the car looking more original and maybe tidier looking, as opposed to drilling holes in the A-pillars to mount the external lamps, or if you're just going to stick them onto the outside, of course the mirrors are going to look better than that. But the work that's involved in installing the blind spot mirrors is complex, extreme, and very time consuming. And while that doesn't bother me going to all that work for my own car, in fact I really enjoyed doing this installation, the reality is it's just not cost effective to do it. So if you're watching this video and you have no experience working on cars at all, and you still want blind spot mirrors, then that means you're prepared to pay a professional to do it for you. And that's a great idea. However, do get ready for a really expensive installation bill, because this job is going to take hours and hours to do. And if the installer is working alone on this job, like I was with this installation, I can see it ending up as a few days of work. Of course, if you plan on doing the installation yourself, then that's going to be a huge saving, as there will be no labour to pay. So if after watching this video and it hasn't scared you off, and you still plan on doing the installation, then go for it. If you have the time and skills to do it, like I said before, it was fun and you will definitely learn a lot about your car from doing it. One more thing I will add to this review that has been quite noticeable to me, and that at the moment I am questioning if I like as much, is that obviously every time an object is detected, the blind spot system will give me a visual warning by flashing the light in the mirror. However, unless it's really dark and at night time, I find myself having to take my eyes off the road to look in the mirrors to find out which side the light is flashing on. Where when compared to the notification lamps installed in the A-pillars inside the car, it's a lot easier to see which side is flashing. This might sound stupid, but seriously, I do find that quite noticeable, using the mirrors, especially more so for the passenger side though. And I don't know if I like that about having the mirrors over the notification lamps in the A-pillars, which are a lot easier to see out of the corner of your eye. But as I said, at night time, this is not a problem, because at night, just like the external notification lamps, the mirror lights are also very bright. Anyway guys, as always I will leave a link in the description below for anyone who is interested in purchasing one of these blind spot monitoring systems, or the blind spot mirrors themselves, that you have seen in this video. The blind spot monitoring system I have used in this video is very good, but only providing it's installed correctly, and they can require a bit of fine-tuning to get them right. I personally would still recommend the 79 GHz system over all the others, because in regards to the radar sensors themselves, it's always a lot easier to set up a single sensor system than it is to set up a dual sensor system. And just as one more important reminder, please remember that as good as these aftermarket blind spot monitoring systems can be, they can and definitely do and will still make mistakes. So it's important to not be fully reliant on it. Please always turn your head and visually look yourself before making a lane change. And that now finally brings us to the end of another video. So thank you so much for watching. That was without any doubt the most complex and fun installation I have done on this channel so far, and I really enjoyed it. So if you also enjoyed watching this video, or you found it helpful, then please like, share, comment and subscribe to the channel, where you can watch even more videos, which I upload every week. And I hope to see you all in the next video.